My name is BK. I'm the owner and chief instructor of Masada Tactical out of Baltimore, Maryland. We specialize in training Israeli-based tactics. We teach anything from hand-to-hand combat to Israeli combat shooting and small team tactics as applies to military and law enforcement. We just concluded a 2-day class in Israeli combat shooting and urban warfare. Started with the very basic of Israeli combat shooting all the way to vehicle interdictions and assaults. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to show the very basics of Israeli combat shooting, the way we covered in this class. With me today is Scott Wilcox. I'm going to use him to demonstrate some of the main differences between the way Israelis shoot and the way Americans shoot come from the stance and the way we present our weapon. Americans are typically tend to keep everything tight, elbows in, isosceles type stance, which is great to expose the minimal amount of the body towards a threat. But under stress, we realize that it's too fine motor dependent. And what we try to accomplish is keep it gross, big motor skills, so even under stress, it's still applicable. We're going to start with the stance. So the first thing I'm going to ask Scott to do, when I say one, Scott, just go into that nice deep squat, spreading your feet apart so you have a nice strong platform. 1. Scott is widening his steps. He's squaring himself towards the target, presenting a little more of his body, but because his body is straight to the target, the presentation is already going to be lined up. The next thing you're going to do, Scott, when I say 2, is I want you to join the forearm, just lay it on top of your support hand. 2. You can see Scott flared both elbows up, which is probably the biggest difference between the way Israelis shoot and the way Americans shoot. This is designed for a few different reasons. Anything from preventing that arc that comes naturally with elbows in, okay? By keeping elbows up, my arms are going to go straight forward, keeping the shot more on target. It assists with controlling recoil. And when working in a confined environment, specifically something like a vehicle, okay, if I need to present the weapon and I need to clear all those obstacles, this helps me to do so. This is a very gross motor skill using tactile point of reference, such as bringing the back of my hand to the side of my cheek. Okay, so under stress, I can count on more senses, making it more applicable and easier to execute. Scott, when I say 3, all I want you to do is extend your arms forward, keeping your eyes on target. We do not use sights. Okay, we're basically going to index. Okay, those elbows up are going to help him to spiral in. Okay, and be right on target. 3. At this point, his body is straight, shoulders are depressed back, arms are fully locked, and he's going to be right on target. Okay, this type of shooting is designed to find a fine balance between the ease of execution, the timing, and accuracy. So there's a trade-off that needs to be done. And if I want to be dead on, such as when using sights, I'm going to give up time. By doing this is pretty quick, and I'm still going to be in a nice little grouping on center mass. Scott, when I say 1, just go through the whole sequence at once, but do it nice and slow. Okay, 1. Nice strong stance, body squared forward and spiraled in. If you think of anything else in life, from throwing a football to rifling inside the barrel to flechettes on an arrow, everything is a spiral that allows you to go straighter, and this indexing movement is no different. Thank you, Scott. You can reholster. What we're going to cover next is how we do a combat reload based off of Israeli combat shooting. So we just fired a round, and Scott got his slide lock back, okay, the way he would when the last round was just fired, and he needs to get a fresh magazine in. Our goal is, first of all, to get into a safe position. Assuming there is no cover around, I'm going to ask Scott to offset to the left and down, dropping on a knee. By doing so, he's offsetting laterally and vertically, making shots coming by an opposing threat a lot harder to make contact with him. So Scott, just offset to a knee. As he's doing that, he's already depressing the magazine release, dropping the mag, and bringing his handgun in front of his face. This is his workspace. He does not have to get his eyes off the threat, off the target. He can manipulate everything right in front of his face. He can check for any malfunctions if he needed to and address them. Scott, what I need to do now is just enter a fresh magazine in and make the gun ready. At this point, he's going to rotate. Stay there for me for a second, Scott. As you can see, we need to get that gun ready and still get that spiral in that makes the shot more accurate. Putting the thumb up, which is probably a big difference for Americans who are used to cupping the slide with their fingers over. This is going to be a little bit of an odd movement, but this allows him to assure that both elbows are up. And again, under stress, being gross motor skill oriented and consistent with everything else we're doing, whether it's a reload, not a reload, one-handed, multiple-handed, always the same, okay, allows us to, under stress, still being able to execute the skill. Thumb up, he's going to grasp the slide, and spiraling and punching his shooting end forward, he's going to get right on target. Obviously, magazine is empty right now, so that slide won't release, okay? But this is the position. He's going to get right on target nice and fast, okay? And still maintaining that squared body forward towards the target, nice strong platform, and he can keep engaging from this position. I'm going to demonstrate now Israeli point shooting in a live fashion. One point I want to make: traditionally, Israelis do not carry around the chamber. They don't carry in condition 1, they carry in condition 2. Magazine is full, no round chambered. And part of the presentation is loading around. Okay, we adapted the form of shooting, Israeli combat shooting, to the American law enforcement and military. So we will start with a round chamber in condition 1, as most officers in the United States will carry. I carry an appendix. It works nicely with our presentation system. It also works very nicely when you're in a seated position in a vehicle, for example, with a seat belt over. It facilitates my presentation, and I'm going to use this type of holster right now to demonstrate this technique. I'm going to go live. Clear. So once I drop to a knee in order to execute my reload, and again I'm just trying to offset some safer from incoming fire. Obviously empty chamber, no magazine, as the magazine was dropped on my way down. I'm going to grab a fresh magazine and I'm going to insert it. Okay. If the slide released. If it didn't, I typically will still rack it, just because under stress I don't know. Worst case scenario is I lost a round, not a big deal. But because my presentation is that spiral, in order to save time, I'm going to shoot one-handed. Okay, one-handed gets me on target faster instead of trying to put the other end there. I can be just as accurate shooting one-handed than I am shooting two-handed, especially in a CQB environment where I can sacrifice a little bit of that precision for the time that I'm going to be saving.